Ever tried buying groceries with a fistful of seashells?
Not really. No.
Probably not. But it really makes you think about, like, what money really is, you know?
Yeah, it definitely challenges our assumptions. That's what's so fascinating about this deep dive into Ludwig von Mises' The Theory of Money and Credit. Even though he was writing over a century ago, his insights on money banking and credit are surprisingly relevant to the financial headlines we see today.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've got excerpts from the book itself, along with some insightful forewords and translator's notes to guide us. So buckle up. Whether you're a financial whiz or just curious about how the economic gears turn, this deep dive will give you a new perspective on the money in your wallet.
Speaking of wallets, Mises kicks things off with a pretty fundamental question. What makes something money? And not just, say, a shiny seashell.
Okay, so let's get back to those seashells. They might be pretty, but you can't exactly walk into a store and buy milk with them. Why not?
Well, because they lack what Mises calls universal acceptance. Money, according to Mises, is the one thing that everyone in a market is willing to accept in exchange for goods and services.
Oh,
And they accept it because they know they can then turn around and use it to buy other things they need or want.
so it's like a giant trust exercise. Everyone agrees that this thing, whether it's rolled coins or dollar bills, has value because we all believe it does.
Precisely. And this brings us to Mises' distinction between money and money substitutes. Think of things like gift cards or even those loyalty points you accumulate on your credit card. You can use them like money in certain situations, but they're not universally accepted the way actual money is.
So you see, even though you might use a gift card like money, Mises reminds us it's not truly money because you can't use it everywhere. It lacks that universal acceptance.
Exactly. And it's important to recognize these substitutes because they behave differently in the economy. Mises dives into various types of money: commodity money, credit money, and fiat money. Each has its own unique characteristics and behaves differently.
Okay, let's unpack those. Commodity money sounds pretty straightforward. It's something that has value in itself, even if it wasn't used as money, like gold, right? It's shiny, it's rare, it's used in jewelry and electronics, so it has inherent value.
That's a great example. Gold has been a popular form of commodity money throughout history, for sure. Then you have credit money, which is essentially a promise to pay a certain amount of money in the future. Imagine early banknotes. Those were basically IOUs, promises to exchange them for a fixed amount of gold or silver.
Got it. So it's like a placeholder for actual money, backed by a promise. But what about the money we use today? Dollars, euros, yen. What category do they fall under?
That's where fiat money comes in. Fiat money is declared legal tender by a government, but it isn't backed by a commodity like gold. Its value comes from that government decree and people's confidence that it will continue to be accepted.
So the value of the dollar in my wallet right now is essentially based on faith in the U.S. government and the overall economy. That's a lot of trust.
It is. And Mises was very interested in this relationship between money and the state. He argued that while the state can influence the monetary system, it can't simply declare anything to be money and expect it to magically hold value.
So if a government just printed a bunch of colorful pieces of paper and said, this is money now, it wouldn't automatically work.
Not quite. The value of money comes from people's willingness to use it in exchanges. If people don't trust the issuer or believe the economy is unstable, they'll lose faith in the currency and its value will plummet.
That's where we get into the whole inflation debate, right? Mises was very critical of the idea that simply printing more money is good for the economy.
Absolutely. He called it inflationism, and he believed it was a dangerous illusion. You see, when the amount of money increases faster than the supply of goods and services, you get inflation. Each unit of money buys less, and people lose purchasing power.
That makes sense. We've all seen prices going up lately. Is that what Mises was warning about all those years ago?
Well, he was certainly concerned about the dangers of governments trying to manipulate the economy by printing too much money. He saw it as a short-term fix that ultimately leads to long-term problems.
So when we hear about government spending and economic stimulus measures in the news today, are we seeing Mises' ideas playing out in real time?
It's fascinating to see how his analysis from over a century ago provides a framework for understanding these complex economic debates we're having right now. Of course, we're not here to take sides or endorse any particular policy. Our goal is to understand Mises' ideas and how they can help us make sense of the financial world.
That's what I love about these deep dives. It's like having a secret decoder ring for understanding the forces that shape our lives. Okay, so we've established what money is, how it gets its value, and the potential dangers of messing with that value. What other mind-blowing insights did Mises have up his sleeve?
Well, he challenged another commonly held belief, the idea that we need a fixed measure of value for money to work properly.
Wait, so you're saying we don't need something like the gold standard to keep money stable?
That's exactly what Mises argued. He believed that tying money to a specific commodity wasn't necessary. Instead, he said the value of money comes from its usefulness in facilitating exchange. Its primary function is to help us trade goods and services efficiently.
So it's more about the role money plays in our daily lives than what it's made of or backed by.
Precisely. Mises pointed out that in our daily lives, we're constantly making value judgments about different goods and services, even without a fixed measure like the gold standard. Imagine you're at the store, trying to decide between two different brands of coffee. How do you decide which one is worth more to you?
I guess I weigh things like taste, price, caffeine content, maybe even ethical sourcing. It's a whole subconscious calculation.
Exactly. And Mises used similar examples to illustrate his point. He argued that we don't need a fixed unit of value to compare things because we intuitively understand how much one thing is worth to us compared to something else.
It's like when you're deciding whether to buy that new pair of shoes or put that money towards a weekend getaway. You're constantly weighing your desires and making choices based on what you value most at that moment.
You got it. And this subjective value is at the heart of how money functions. Mises believed that trying to impose a fixed measure of value was unnecessary and even counterproductive. He wanted us to understand how individuals make these value judgments in their daily lives and how that drives the dynamics of a market economy.
So it's all about understanding the psychology behind our economic choices.
Fascinating. Okay, so Mises debunked the need for a fixed measure of value. What else did he explore in this book?
Well, next, he delves into the world of fiduciary media, a fancy term for things like banknotes, checks, and even the bank deposits we rely on today.
Okay, break that down for me. What are fiduciary media and why are they important? Think of it like this. Imagine you have a gold coin representing a certain amount of value. Instead of carrying that heavy coin around, you deposit it with a goldsmith who issues you a receipt, a promise to return your coin on demand. That receipt is, in essence, fiduciary media.
So it's like an IOU that's become so widely accepted, it practically functions as money itself.
Exactly. And Mises argued that these fiduciary media arose because they make the economic system more efficient. Instead of lugging around gold or silver for every transaction, we can use these paper claims, which are easier to transfer and store.
I can definitely see the convenience there. I mean, imagine trying to buy a house with a sack of gold coins. But aren't there risks involved with this system? What if people lose faith in the issuer of these fiduciary media?
That's the crucial point that Mises emphasized. The entire system relies on trust and confidence. If people start to doubt that a banknote or a check will be honored, the whole thing can come crashing down.
It's like that saying, in God we trust, all others pay cash. But in this case, it's in banks we trust.
Right, and think about how much of your financial life relies on this system of trust. Your bank accounts, credit cards, online payments. It's mind-boggling how much we rely on these fiduciary media without even thinking about it.
It really is. Okay, so we've covered the basics of money, the dangers of inflation, Mises' thoughts on value, and this fascinating world of fiduciary media. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of this book, though. What else did Mises explore?
Well, he jumped into one of the biggest debates in economics at the time, the battle between the currency school and the banking school.
Okay, now this sounds like some serious economic history. Can you give us the Cliff Notes version?
Absolutely. The currency school was concerned about banks having too much freedom to issue credit. They worried that this could lead to inflation and instability. Their solution: strict limits on the amount of fiduciary media banks could create.
So, imagine you're in charge of the economy. Would you trust banks to regulate themselves, or would you want stricter government control? That's the dilemma these schools were grappling with. What about the banking school? What was their take?
The banking school argued for more freedom for banks. They believed that as long as banks were only issuing credit backed by real economic activity, like loans for businesses or mortgages, there was no danger of inflation. They thought the market would naturally regulate itself.
So it was a debate about how much we should trust the banks versus how much government oversight is necessary. Sounds familiar, right?
It's amazing how these debates from centuries ago still resonate today. And Mises waded into this controversy with his own unique perspective. He acknowledged the concerns of the currency school, but ultimately disagreed with their proposed solution. He was also critical of the banking school's laissez-faire approach.
So where did he land on the spectrum of more regulation versus less?
Well, Mises was a strong advocate for free markets, so he was generally skeptical of government intervention. But when it came to banking, he believed some level of regulation was necessary to prevent recklessness and those boom and bust cycles that can wreak havoc on the economy.
So it sounds like he was trying to find a balance between the benefits of a free market and the need for safeguards to prevent abuse.
Exactly. And this debate about how to regulate banks, how to balance freedom and stability, is one we're still grappling with today.
It's fascinating how these issues keep popping up throughout history. Okay, so we've tackled money, inflation, value, fiduciary media, A&D, a major economic debate. Phew. Anything else we need to cover before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
Actually, there's one more crucial topic that Mises explored: the allure and potential danger of low interest rates.
Ooh, this is something we hear a lot about in the news these days, with central banks constantly tweaking interest rates. What was Mises' take on this?
He believed that interest rates are a vital signal in the economy. They reflect people's time preference, how much they value having something today versus waiting for it in the future. When interest rates are artificially suppressed below their natural level, it distorts this signal and can lead to some risky behavior.
So it's like messing with the thermostat of the economy. You might get a temporary burst of heat, but could it throw the whole system out of whack in the long run? What kind of risky behavior are we talking about?
Well, when interest rates are kept artificially low, it encourages businesses to borrow more money and invest in projects that might not be profitable in the long run. This can create a temporary boom period, but it's built on a shaky foundation.
So, like building a house on sand. But couldn't someone argue that these low interest rates are necessary to keep the economy moving, even if it means taking some risks? What do you think is Mises being overly cautious here?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of the debate about monetary policy. Mises was very concerned about the long-term consequences of manipulating interest rates. He believed it creates a dangerous illusion of prosperity, masking underlying problems that will eventually come to the surface.
So he saw this cycle of artificially low rates leading to booms and then inevitable busts, all driven by the manipulation of money and credit.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And he provided a very sophisticated analysis of the complex relationship between money, credit, and the rate of interest. It's a lot to unpack, but the key takeaway is that these interventions in the market can have unintended consequences.
It's like we're playing with forces we don't fully understand. And this connects directly to the discussions we hear today about the role of central banks and how they manage monetary policy.
Absolutely. It's remarkable how Mises' work, written so long ago, provides a lens for understanding the economic challenges we face today.
It's like he's giving us a secret decoder ring for understanding these complex economic forces. Welcome back to our deep dive into Ludwig von Mises, The Theory of Money and Credit. We've already uncovered some surprising insights about what money is, how it gets its value, and the potential dangers of manipulating the system.
And believe it or not, we're just getting warmed up. Mises explored a wide range of topics related to money and credit, many of which are still hotly debated today.
It's like he was a time traveler, dropping wisdom bombs for future generations. Speaking of things that stand the test of time, let's talk about gold. It's been a form of money for centuries. Does Mises think we should go back to a gold standard?
He definitely tackled that question, examining various proposals for monetary reform, including a return to gold. Mises weighed the arguments for and against, recognizing both the benefits and limitations of such a system.
So for all the gold bugs out there, what did Mises have to say about your favorite shiny metal?
He acknowledged that a gold standard has certain advantages. It can help limit government inflation by tying the amount of money in circulation to the supply of gold, which is relatively fixed. This makes it harder for governments to just print money whenever they feel like it.
So it's like a built-in constraint on government spending.
You could say that.
Yeah.
But Mises also cautioned that even a return to gold isn't a magic bullet. Governments can still find ways to manipulate the system. Plus, even under a gold standard, there can be economic fluctuations.
So it's not a perfect solution. But it's interesting how this debate about gold keeps popping up, even in today's world of digital currencies and decentralized finance.
It's fascinating, isn't it? People are still searching for alternatives to the current system, just like they were in Mises' time. The specific solutions may have evolved, but the underlying desire for a more stable and transparent monetary system is something that resonates across generations.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if we're destined to keep repeating these cycles of boom and bust no matter what form our money takes.
That's a question worth pondering. But remember, Mises believed that understanding these fundamental principles of money and credit is crucial for navigating these challenges. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our financial well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. What money is, how it gets its value, the dangers of inflation, the role of fiduciary media, the debate between the currency and banking schools, the complexities of interest rates, and the gold standard question. My brain is officially full. Can you help us synthesize all of this? What are the key takeaways from Mises' work that we should really remember?
That's the million-dollar question. It is dense material, but the insights are worth the effort. Here's what I think are the most important points. First, money isn't just a thing. It's an institution that emerges from the needs of a market economy. Its value is determined by its usefulness in facilitating exchange, not by some inherent property.
So a dollar bill isn't valuable because of the paper it's printed on, but because of what it allows us to buy groceries, pay rent, invest in our future. It's all about that power of exchange.
Exactly. Second, any attempt to manipulate the monetary system, whether by governments or central banks, will have unintended consequences. It's like playing with fire. You might think you're in control, but things can quickly spiral out of control.
We've seen this throughout history, right? Governments try to inflate their way out of trouble or manipulate interest rates to stimulate the economy, but it often backfires, leading to more instability and even crises.
Unfortunately, yes. And finally, Mises reminds us that the monetary system is incredibly complex and constantly evolving. There are no easy answers or quick fixes. We need to be constantly learning, adapting, and questioning our assumptions.
It's a reminder to stay curious and informed, especially in today's rapidly changing financial landscape. We can't just blindly trust the experts. We need to understand these issues ourselves.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why Mises' work is so valuable. It equips us with the knowledge and critical thinking skills to navigate these complex issues and make informed decisions about our own financial lives.
So reading the theory of money and credit is like investing in our own financial education, helping us become more savvy and resilient in a world full of economic uncertainties.
Exactly. Now, in the last part of our deep dive, let's explore some specific passages from Mises' book, those aha moments that really make you think and see the world in a new light.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the theory of money and credit. We've covered a lot of ground exploring Ludwig von Mises' ideas about what money is, how it functions, and the potential pitfalls of manipulating the system.
And now for the grand finale, we're going to delve into some of the most thought-provoking passages from Mises' book. You know, these are the nuggets of wisdom that really make you stop and think, wow, I never thought about it that way before.
I love those aha moments. It's like finding a hidden gem in a dusty old book. So what treasures have you unearthed for us today?
Well, there's one passage that really struck me where Mises talks about the psychological impact of money. He writes, "Money is regarded as the cause of theft and murder, of deception and betrayal. Money is blamed when the prostitute sells her body and when the bribed judge perverts the law."
That's a powerful statement. It makes you realize how money, this seemingly neutral tool we use every day, can become entangled with all sorts of complex human emotions and motivations.
Exactly. It's almost as if money takes on a life of its own, becoming a symbol for both our aspirations and our anxieties.
Yeah, it's easier to blame an abstract concept like money for society's problems than to confront the messier realities of human behavior.
Right. And Mises goes on to say, significantly enough, avarice is called the love of money, and all evil is attributed to it. He's highlighting how money often becomes a scapegoat for all sorts of societal ills, even though it's simply a tool.
Right. It's a reminder that economics isn't just about numbers and graphs. It's about understanding human psychology and the choices we make in a world of limited resources.
Precisely. And this leads us to another fascinating passage where Mises delves into the subjective nature of value, particularly when it comes to money. He distinguishes between the use value of a good, the satisfaction we get from consuming it, and its exchange value, what we can trade it for in the market.
So, for example, a slice of pizza has use value because it satisfies my hunger, but it also has exchange value because I can trade it for something else, like a book or a movie ticket.
Exactly. But Mises argues that with money it's different. He writes, as far as the individual is concerned, money has no use value at all, but only subjective exchange value.
So I don't get any direct satisfaction from holding a dollar bill, but I value it because I know I can exchange it for things that bring me satisfaction, like that pizza or those movie tickets.
Precisely. The value of money to each of us depends entirely on our expectations about what others will be willing to trade for it in the future.
That makes sense. If people lose faith in a particular currency, its value plummets, even if it's still legal tender. We've seen this happen throughout history with hyperinflation and currency collapses.
Exactly. And this is where Mises' insights about the dangers of manipulating the monetary system become so relevant. When governments print excessive amounts of money, it erodes that trust and confidence, leading to a decline in the value of the currency.
It's like a delicate dance. The value of money depends on maintaining a balance between supply and demand, and when that balance is disrupted, the consequences can be severe.
Right. Which brings us to another passage I wanted to highlight, where Mises discusses the demonetization of money. He uses the example of silver, which was once widely used as money, but has gradually been phased out in many parts of the world.
So even something that was once considered valuable as money can lose its status. What causes that to happen?
Mises argues that it occurs when people lose confidence in a particular form of money and start using other things as a medium of exchange. It's a reminder that the monetary system is constantly evolving, and what's considered money today might not be tomorrow.
So it's not enough for a government to simply declare something as money. It has to earn and maintain the trust of the people who use it.
Precisely. And this highlights the importance of adaptability and the need to constantly be assessing the risks and opportunities in the financial landscape.
Yeah, it makes you think about the rise of cryptocurrencies and digital payment systems. Are we witnessing a shift in what we consider money right before our very eyes?
It's certainly a possibility. Mises' insights about the evolution of money can help us make sense of these rapid changes and understand the forces at play.
So after diving deep into the theory of money and credit, what does it all mean for us today? We live in a world of fiat currencies, central banks, and ever-evolving financial technologies. Are Mises' ideas still relevant?
Absolutely. In fact, I think they're more relevant than ever. We're seeing the consequences of decades of easy money policies and government interventions in the market. Inflation is on the rise, and there are growing concerns about the stability of the global financial system.
It's like we're living through a real-time experiment in the ideas that Mises was warning about a century ago.
Exactly. And his work provides a framework for understanding what's happening and for thinking critically about potential solutions. He reminds us that sound money is essential for a healthy economy and that attempts to manipulate the system for short-term gain often lead to long-term pain.
So what can we do? How can we apply Mises' insights to navigate these challenges and create a more stable and prosperous financial future?
That's the big question. There's no easy answer. But I think the first step is education. We need to understand how money works, what the risks are, and how to protect ourselves. Mises' work is a valuable resource for this. But we also need to stay informed about current events and engage in open and honest discussions about potential solutions.
It's like we need to become our own financial detectives, constantly learning and adapting to the changing landscape.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of economics. It's not just about dry theory. It's about understanding the world around us and making informed choices that shape our lives. Mises' work empowers us to do just that.
It's been an incredible journey, diving deep into the theory of money and credit with you. It's amazing how a book written over a century ago can still be so insightful and relevant to our lives today.
I agree. It's a testament to the enduring power of these fundamental economic principles and to Mises' brilliance as a thinker. His work is a gift to anyone who wants to understand the complexities of money and credit and navigate the challenges of the financial world.
And that concludes our deep dive into Ludwig von Mises' The Theory of Money and Credit. We hope you've enjoyed this intellectual adventure as much as we have.
Remember, the journey of economic understanding doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.
Until next time, stay curious.